Welcome, families and friends of Charlie, Chapter Clark. Welcome to his celebration of life. My name is Brother Johnson. I will be conducting. Up on the stand, who is presiding, is Bishop Brent Davis. We'd just like to welcome you all to this celebration of life and hope that you find it meaningful and somewhat of a healing moment for you. To open our celebration today, we will sing hymn number 193, I Stand All Amazed. And after that hymn, we will have an opening prayer by Lindsay Chapter, Charlie's aunt.
I stand I am the resurrection and the life, saith the Lord. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. I know that my Redeemer lives, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. And though this body be destroyed, yet shall I see God, whom I shall see for myself, and mine eyes shall behold, and not as a stranger. For none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. For if we live unto the Lord, and if we die unto the Lord. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord's. O God of grace and glory, we remember before you this day our brother Charlie. We thank you for giving him to us, his family and friends, to know and to love as a companion on our earthly pilgrimage. In your boundless compassion, console us who mourn. Give us faith to see in death the gate of eternal life, so that in quiet confidence we may continue our course on earth until, by your call, we are reunited with those who have gone before, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Lindsay. That was beautiful. I must say, it's beautiful to see how many people Charlie touched. Thank you for coming today. We have some great speakers today, people who loved and knew Charlie best. Our first speaker will be David Clark, his father. Following David will be Sariah Davis, his sister. And following Sariah will be Bethany Ray, his sister. David?
There is a 6'7", 190-pound hole in my heart where Charlie goes. I spent the last 2 weeks crying and comforting, being comforted, and in general feeling devastated. The world has changed, and it will never be the same. Today, however, I'm not going to stand up here and cry and talk about the tragedy. I want to talk about Charlie and how he impacted the people around him. I don't want celebration of life to be a cliche. I want to tell stories of Charlie that make me laugh. They're more than I can possibly share, because Charlie has a lot of moments that made up a wonderful life. He packed 100 years of living into 20 years, and I'm going to try to summarize it in 20 minutes. Raising Charlie was an adventure. From the beginning, he was energetic. I know he took statistics in college, and I know some of you did. So I'll just say on a bell curve of energetic kids, he was 3 to 4 standard deviations above the mean. For those of you who haven't had statistics, that means he was the Einstein of not sitting still for dinner, for teachers, for naps, for homework, for reading, for his parents to sleep in, or for anything else. He was always moving, always doing something, always looking for adventure. As a side note, when I typed in Charlie and adventure to my Google photo, it came up with 912 photographs that Google thought defined adventure with Charlie in it. How did all this impact his childhood? Well, it accounts for some things I like to call the machete incident, the ongoing chair against the wall fiasco, the CAT scan weekend, the mystery of the palm tree with ascending knives, the white cat incident, and what I like to call how did you get that stuck in your ear conundrum. And many, many more. I'll go over some of those. I don't know if we have time for all of them. The machete incident. When we moved into our house, Charlie was 3, and being very safety conscious, but also owning swords, I put them where no one could possibly get them, on a shelf 6 feet high in one of those sliding closets, under 2 boxes of books, about 40 pounds total, with the blade weighed down by that 40 pounds of books. Charlie at 3 stacked some other boxes he found because he was always the first one awake. Climbed up there, got the machete, which is pretty sharp actually. I got it from your dad, Rick, and Dave. And woke me up waving it in my face, exclaiming, "Look what I found, Dad. Can I keep it?" I guess it was 16 years later when he texted me, "Hey, Dad, I need my social security number. Can you text it to me?" I texted back, "Well, how do I know this isn't just some kid who stole Charlie's phone and wants his social security number?" He responded with, "I tried to kill you with a machete when I was 3. It's me." I took a screenshot of that, and it's on the slideshow we'll see later. The ongoing chair against the wall fiasco. Also at a surprisingly young age, and I swear we've got 5 kids. We weren't totally not watching any of them. Charlie just was a ninja. We would just find him at 3 and 4 crawling along the back wall. Every time, "Charlie, you can't do that," we'd grab him. Next morning, he'd push a chair up against the wall, climb all the way around the wall. "Charlie, you can't do that." That never stopped. And our neighbors were like, "Can you keep Charlie off the wall?" I'm like, "Yeah, we'd like to keep Charlie off the wall." And then we had a new neighbor move in. I don't know if he's here, but he likes things very organized and in the right spot, and Charlie did not fit in with that life philosophy. And he said, I really just want you to ask Charlie to stay off the wall." I'm like, "Okay, that's a good idea. We'll ask him and see what happens." And that lasted till he went to college. I'm going to skip the CAT scan weekend, but go ahead and fill in the blanks yourself. A surprising number of concussions for such a young man. But he did answer the question, "Can I do a backflip off the couch?" The answer is no. The palm tree with the ascending knives is my personal favorite. We would go out into our backyard, this new home, every morning, and there would be a butter knife, like from our utensil drawer, stuck in the palm tree in our backyard. We'd take it out and put it away. Every morning there was another palm tree. No one knew what was going on. So we started leaving the knives there, and every morning the knife was a little bit higher. Finally, I decided it was worth getting up really early to see what was going on. Turns out Charlie would get a couple of knives, and like he was ascending a frozen waterfall, stick it in, pull himself up, stick it in, pull himself up. And he would leave one in there to show how far he'd gotten, so he could try to get further the next day. I'm going to skip the white cat incident, but the punchline is that he laid in the road next to his bike until we came, and he could see. We could watch him get up, and you know, he was sprawled out on the road like this, waiting for us to show before he recovered and started crying. And we got a call from the school nurse in middle school one time. And by the way, if you're a school nurse, do not start conversations with, "Is this Charlie's father?" This is the school nurse. There's been an incident. just start off with everything's fine and go from there. Because we got a lot of calls from the school nurse. This one was probably his most embarrassing for him. Apparently he wadded up a little ball of paper and jammed it in his ear and then tried to get it out, so it jammed in a little further, and they were really trying to get out, so he jammed it in so far, and eventually he had to ask the teacher if he could go to the nurse because he couldn't get this wad of paper out of his ear. And then the nurse couldn't get it out, so she called us, and we couldn't get it out of his ear. We used tweezers and even a shop vac, and which he hated, by the way. He didn't think that was fun at all. So we went to the quick care and had to explain to the nurse there that he had jammed a piece of paper, and everybody wanted to know why. Why did you? But there was no answer to why. And so it was about 2 hours of warm water just flushing in his ear, getting little microscopic pieces of paper off. But yeah, we got a lot of calls from the school nurse. And I tossed this one in just at the last second. In elementary school, the teachers bring the kids out and the parents get them and they go. And if you're 5 or 10 minutes late, they take the kids to the office. They're like, we're going to call your parents and make sure they're on their way. Charlie, we were late to pick him up one time. And so they took him to the office. They said they were going to call your mom. He's like, oh, I'm sure my mom's on the way. She probably got a flat tire or she's in jail. And we were new to that school, so they didn't know mom was a lawyer. They just knew that mom being in jail was not an unusual thing. Charlie was a swimmer. Ask any parent of a swimmer why they got their kids into swimming, and if they're honest, they'll tell you it was to burn off some energy because they were driving them crazy. That's how it was with Charlie. He was 7 when we took him to a swim camp over the summer, and he never looked back. And we loved it because he was tired. After practice. Now, don't get me wrong, Charlie loved all sports. It's just that because he had this 18-year growth spurt, he was never very coordinated. But when he was in the water, he couldn't fall down anymore. Nobody yelled at him for throwing the ball out of bounds. So he loved swimming. He loved practices. He loved meets. He had the best sportsmanship I'd ever seen. After every race, shake the hands of the kids on either side. Eventually start getting on podiums, shake the hands of the kids on either side. Meet kids at every meet. Always kind. People say he was talented. I think that's code for dedicated. Not saying his size 14 feet and his giant paddle hands weren't a competitive advantage. They were. But he also had thousands of hours in the pool. I don't think he missed more than a handful of practices between the age 8 and 19. I can't account for how many he missed in college, but up till we sent him, he always wanted to go to practice. When he was 14, he and I were having an argument about something, and he was in trouble. He was talking back big time. I said, that's it. No swim practice for you. Everything changed. He's like, you can't do that. You can't take swim practice from me. I'm like, this is great. I found something that he cares about that I can take from him to guide his behavior. Unfortunately, he meant it. You can't take swim practice. So he snuck out of the house, probably out of the window of a second-story bedroom. But when you're 14 and 6'2", and have a 7-foot wingspan, it's probably not a very far drop from the second-story window. And he got his bike and he rode 5 miles to the Silver Springs pool for practice. After that, we came to an agreement that He would not be so rude when he talks back, and we would never, ever, ever try to take swim practice from him because that was his lifeblood. Being a swimmer isn't easy. Neither is being a swim parent. In high school, there are 5 a.m. practices, and there are afternoon practices. His mom took him to the 5 a.m. practices, and I took him to the afternoons. It just kind of worked out that way. When he got his license, though, he would get himself up, feed himself a little bit, go to practice, feed himself a lot more, and get himself to school. We never woke him up. We never told him he had to go. He just loved swimming, and he wanted to keep getting better. All that hard work paid off. Over the years, he went from coming in last to the top 50 to making the finals, and finally, the last couple of years of high school, he was winning races and he was winning meets. He was so close to qualifying for the Olympic trials in his 3 best events, and he was working hard to make that happen. He was a good sport, but he was very competitive. He gets plenty of that from his mom, but some of it, I think, from me. I never let him beat me at anything. We might adjust the rules, give him a head start, or take a couple pieces away when we start a game of chess, but then we'd battle for victory. That was great until he turned 12. Between 12 and 14, first he's taller than me, then he's faster than me, he's blocking my shot in basketball, and I never beat him at basketball again after that. His freshman year of college, he started beating me at chess. And I think the happiest I've ever seen him was a few months ago when he made me tap out on the mat. The only thing I could still beat him at was arm wrestling. And I kind of think he was letting me win because he felt bad for me. I want to talk a little about Charlie's character. Last couple weeks, we've received dozens of cards, texts, and other messages. A lot from our friends and family that we know and love, but a lot from people we've never met or even heard of before. Most of them went like this. You don't know me, but your son Charlie made a huge difference in my life. He went out of his way to be kind to me when, and fill in the blank. I messed up a huge race, the other kids were making fun of me, I failed a paper, my parents got divorced. The stories were all different, but they were all really the same. Charlie just reached out to everyone with kindness and love, and when he sensed that they needed it. And he wanted to protect everyone. Well, he wanted to protect everyone smaller than him, but that's mostly everyone. He had a very intense sense of fairness and always stood up for what he thought was right. He got in at least 3 fights in elementary school. One because one kid was being pushed around by 3. Another when a 1st grader was being knocked down by a 5th grader, and Charlie was a 2nd grader. And once when a kid with special needs was being picked on by older kids. Every time, he jumped right in because he knew that he was in the right. Charlie was bullied himself quite a bit. The things that made him so adorable as an adult got him picked on as a kid. No personal boundaries, hugging people. He was always the biggest, so people would tease him for his size, see if they could push him around. Everybody thought he was 3 years older than he was because he was so tall. Why is that kid acting like he's 5? Because he's 5. Why is that teenager playing basketball against my 8-year-old? Well, he's also 8. And he keeps throwing the ball away, so why do you care? Charlie learned to stand up for himself and others. By the time he was a sophomore in high school, nobody could really pick on him physically. He was 6'6" and he could fight. By the time he was a senior, there was no one to pick on him at all. He was a senior, and all the younger kids on the team looked up to him. But he didn't exclude, he didn't pick on the younger kids. He encouraged them, he cheered for them, he set an example for them, and he influenced the culture around him so that there were no outsiders. There are no strangers when everyone is family, and that's how Charlie felt. And families share, so he probably ate your snacks if you took them to a swim meet. So thank you to all the swimmers and swim parents who fed Charlie at the swim meets. I swear, we sent him with his own food, but variety is the spice of life. Raise your hand if you ever fed Charlie. Yeah, that's a lot. Charlie was a hugger. Raise your hand if you've been hugged by Charlie. Turn around, Anna. That was big. As a kid, we couldn't get him to stop hugging everyone he met. Strangers, people who come to fix appliances. He didn't understand that not everyone was his friend and not everyone wanted a hug. But we were wrong. He treated everyone like they were his friend as soon as he met him. He also assumed that everyone needed a hug. That didn't go over so well in middle school, but in high school and college, it's a big reason why he's got so many friends. Most of you are here because Charlie assumed you wanted to be his friend, so he treated you like a friend. A young man came up to me, we were in Laramie last weekend. He introduced himself and said he's not very good at making friends. He's always shy and stays on the outskirts and tries not to get in the way. He said Charlie saw him, went out of his way to introduce himself, and always stopped what he was doing every time he saw him to say hi and invite him to play video games. That was Charlie's superpower. Not swimming, treating everyone like a friend. Wyoming. Charlie narrowed down his choices for college to 2 schools. We had 2 big recruiting trips. His mom flew with him to Hawaii, probably because of all the 5 a.m. practices. And I got to fly with him to Laramie, Wyoming. Actually, you fly to Denver, and then you drive for 2 or 3 hours to get to Laramie. There aren't a lot of flights going in and out because there are 30,000 people in the town of Laramie, Wyoming, literally half of which are students or employed by the university. I can't talk about the Hawaii campus or the beaches because I wasn't there. But the University of Wyoming is beautiful and the weather's perfect. In September, which is when they have their recruiting trips. He said one of the reasons he wanted to go to Wyoming was because he wanted to experience seasons. And he did, particularly winter. I don't know exactly how many times he sent to our family Snapchat a video of him walking through a blizzard to class or to swim practice, telling us how many degrees below 0 it was, but it was a lot. On that recruiting trip, they talked about the academic structure they put around athletes to make sure they don't fall behind in their schoolwork, how they can't practice if they don't turn in assignments or to keep their GPA up. I thought, wow, that'd be great for him, but I don't think Charlie's gonna go for it. And we walked out, he said, you know what, Dad? I think that kind of structure would really be good for me. This is from a kid who wouldn't turn his homework, no matter how many times I told him. But he was growing up. Mostly, though, when we went to Wyoming, he met his coaches in the swim team. He loved the people. He wanted to be part of the community. So that's why he went there. Students at the University of Wyoming are cowboys, or cowgirls, or cowpokes. Go Pokes. They have a saying, the world needs more cowboys. Last week I started thinking about what that means. I read a lot of Louis L'Amour books as a kid growing up. Ask your parents what that is. And the cowboys in his books always stood up for what was right. They always fought to protect those who were being pushed around. And it was their actual job to bring the cattle together, to go after the one that's lost and scared and on its own, to make that one part of the herd. If you follow the metaphor, I'm saying you're all a bunch of cows. Charlie just wanted to bring you all together. He did this in big and little ways every day. If he's everybody's friend, then everyone else has him in common, and we're all just a group of friends. When the women's team coaches told us that prior to Charlie being there was a definite division between the men and women's swim teams, they didn't really interact much. She said Charlie built a bridge between them and helped make it one big team where they all cheered for each other. He did this probably first by making friends with all the girls, eating meals with them and cheering them on, then friends with the guys, so they slowly came together. When we visited campus last week, there was a memorial set up for the 3 swimmers that passed away in the accident. People were leaving flowers and messages. Anna and I were standing there in front of Charlie's flowers crying, so it was obvious who we were. We were oblivious to the students that were passing by, until one of them stopped right in front of us. He said he was on the track and field team and that all the track and field athletes love Charlie. He said that all the athletes love Charlie. Then another track athlete stopped by, told us the same thing. Although they both look like football players, because in Wyoming they just make them big. Anyway, the first kid who stopped asked if he could pray with us and for us. Actually, what he really said was, I'd be honored and blessed if you'd let me say a prayer for y'all. I know not everyone from Wyoming talks like that. I meant all y'all don't always talk like that. I think maybe he was from Texas. But his prayer in that long drawl was about the sweetest thing I've ever heard. While we were in Laramie, we met with his friends and teammates who told us that Charlie loved everyone and brought them together. We met with the women's swim team. For 90 minutes, they told us stories of Charlie being Charlie, befriending strangers, chatting up the girls, running his fingers through his hair. It was so nice to hear. It's the lightest I've felt in the last 2 weeks. That's why we're opening it up later on, so everybody can tell their favorite Charlie story. This morning, my daughter Bethany wanted to replace the battery on my car keys fob. I told her it's not the battery. It just doesn't work very well because it's an aftermarket edition. And then I laughed because I realized I'd had to replace the original one because Charlie left it on top of the car and driven home from swim practice. So it's somewhere on the 215 between Green Valley Parkway and Windmill. After I laughed, it made me smile, as it reminded me that anytime I lose the remote, knock a lamp over and break it, find an empty cereal box in the cupboard, see a pair of dirty socks on the floor, I'll think of Charlie and know that he's still with me. The world needs more cowboys. Go Pokes.
Hi everyone, I'm Sariah, one of Charlie's sisters. As one of his older sisters, I helped keep some of his secrets from Mom and Dad. One such he told me a couple years ago when he was getting ready to move out. He said he was fine with me sharing it, but I figured I'd wait until some time passed just in case. I didn't want him getting into much trouble. Since I was in town for Charlie's graduation, I was there when he was getting nostalgic and ready to move out. While I was there, he decided to give me a tour of everything he broke in the house and explained how he accidentally broke each thing. When I say he broke everything in the house, I mean he broke every single thing in the house. He told me how he broke the kitchen cabinets by hanging on them and swinging. He told me how he accidentally broke the old fridge by hanging on the door and swinging. He told me how he broke the mantle, the old TV, the old oven, and basically everything. And it was mostly from hanging on something and swinging on it. I asked Charlie what he said when Dad would inevitably ask what happened whenever something was randomly broken. Charlie said he would shrug and say, "I don't know, I just found it like that." So to his parents, especially Dad, no, you were not crazy. That said, I'm inclined to think our parents already knew that and had him swimming 6 hours a day to get some of that energy out. Another memory of Charlie comes from a few years ago when our family decided to recreate some old photos from Mother's Day as a surprise. A lot of the older photos took place when Charlie was between 2 and 5, back when his 3 older sisters were much bigger than him. So naturally, a lot of these recreations required Charlie to get on the shoulders or backs of his now much smaller sisters. In order to take one of these photos, Charlie had to stand on top of my car so he could climb down onto our sister Beth's shoulders. While no one got hurt, the bloopers I have of this are some of my all-time favorite photos. They're a bunch of photos of Charlie flailing about wildly on top of Beth's shoulders while she's doing everything she can to keep his flailing body from falling over, even though he was probably only a foot off the ground. In a group of 5 siblings, you're going to bond over different things with each sibling. I know Nate, Tommy, and Beth all bonded with him over different things. Something Charlie and I liked to bond over was dumb movies and TV shows. We loved absurd comedies with Adam Sandler and Will Ferrell. The more absurd the movie, the more we loved it. We also liked watching terrible reality shows, specifically the ones so terrible Netflix would cancel them after 1 season. We mostly watched the comedies, but our very versatile, sophisticated palates appreciated the many great nuances that can only be found in reality TV. We also had time to bond on the short drives to swim practice. For a very short while, I took him to his afternoon practices, and Charlie always made sure to give me directions to the building that was less than 10 minutes from our house. While it got annoying after a couple months, I appreciate how thoughtful he was in trying to help me. More likely, he was just worried I'd get lost, which is valid. Over the years, Charlie would challenge our dad to arm wrestle. Each year, he got bigger and stronger, and the matches went on for longer and got closer. The last one I saw was in January 2022, and Dad still won that one. It seems like Dad's still the champion. So I think we as siblings will have our best chance to avenge Charlie when Dad is 90 years old and sleeping. Even then, it'll probably have to be Beth that arm wrestles him. As Charlie grew older, he became a quiet overachiever. He narrowed down his school choices to Hawaii and Wyoming, and while there were many factors that influenced his decision, one of those factors was the athletic advantage of training in higher altitude. Now, let's be real. There's a reason Wyoming has the lowest population of all the US states. It's cold, and the elevation has slightly more air than outer space. You don't choose to live there strictly for fun, though I'm sure he had a lot of fun there. He went there because he wanted to work hard and become more. He wanted to improve himself. Most of here would have picked Hawaii. We would have picked the nice weather, the beaches, and the chill vibe. Charlie chose the harder option because, frankly, he's better than us. As a teenager, he had the maturity to choose the hard thing. He had the vision to see that it would be worth it, and he had the grit and tenacity to follow through. Charlie is the best of us. Without him, our average goes way down. Even at his young age, he's an astounding example of hard work, perseverance, and grit. He's an example of befriending the friendless and boldly sharing love and comfort to all who need it. He's a giant teddy bear that gives the best hugs. He's a source of fun and playfulness and made otherwise insignificant moments at the dinner table memorable. The level of love, kindness, and tenacity that Charlie reached as a teen is something the rest of us merely aspire to. His greatness is immeasurable, as is this loss. Looking out, it's good to see how loved Charlie is, though it's not surprising. Our parents raised an extraordinary young man. He's greatly loved and greatly missed.
Hello, everyone. I am Bethany, another one of the older sisters. I think as I speak, and everyone else does, we're going to find some common themes about how amazing he was, how he was the light for everyone, and again, looking out at everyone in this room, I'm surprised, and I'm not, at the amount of people he touched. I'd like to start with a little poem. Time and life dance to an eternally written tune. Their fluidity and movements us mortals are not immune. Time ticks continuously by, although spirit stands still, a brother joining their dance at life's claiming will. The phone goes silent, taken has been his sweet soul, or short conversation to say, no more will our family be whole. How can time move so freely after the pain caused by life? Their duality of fundamentality, how do they not strife? Time and life dance to a morbidly written tune, their fluidity and movements, my brother was not immune. And another thing I would like to share is the morning I got the phone call telling me about Charlie's passing, I sent him a text message. Feeling that loss and that sorrow, my immediate thought was, you know who could cheer me up? Charlie. And he's the one person I couldn't talk to. I miss you. Can't believe you're gone. And won't see any more of your ridiculous Snapchats of you walking to class in 3 feet of snow in shorts. I'll miss trying to guess which swimmer you were as Dad gets confused about lane 3 and lane 4 as I'm zooming in on YouTube. I'll miss talking to you about coming out to visit the farm and wanting to hold a chicken for lunch. Hold a chicken for lunch, not have chicken for lunch. I'll miss going on a sushi run at 2 a.m. and knowing you're the only one down to go with me. I'll miss the life we talked about when you were done swimming, hanging out on the farm with all the animals. I'll miss I'll never see you podium at the Olympics. I'll miss every holiday party at the McKays where you encourage my nonsense and hooliganry. I'll miss seeing you versus Dad every holiday at an arm wrestling competition. Don't worry, we'll get him when he's geriatric. I'll miss the fact that I never got to see you finally win. I'll miss gaslighting you at the fact that you're really not that tall. I'll miss carrying your 10-foot tall something as you try to convince me every year that I can't carry you. And I'll miss you sometime in the next week or so, that it will be the last time I carry you into your final resting place. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for gathering here to celebrate the vibrant life of our dear Charlie. If there's one thing we can be sure of, it's that he's probably already organizing a heavenly swim meet right now, anxious he's been out of the water for too long. Charlie was a human sunshine, always radiating positivity. His cheerful personality could brighten the gloomiest days. He had a heart of gold and treated both animals and people with kind demeanor. He was the kind of guy who'd help you move a couch, no questions asked, and find a way to make you have fun in the process. He dove deep into our hearts with his amazing knack for turning ordinary moments into extraordinary memories. In the grand pool of life, Charlie was an Olympic swimmer, not just in the water, but in the way he navigated challenges, always diving in to help others. He was the kind of person who would offer you the towel off his back during the rainiest of days. Charlie was more than a swimmer. He was a mentor, a friend, a brother, a son, and a beacon of positivity. His contagious enthusiasm for life created a ripple effect, touching everyone fortunate enough to know him. In every laugh shared, every encouraging word spoken, he left an indelible mark in our hearts. As we reflect on the memories we share with Charlie, let us remember the times he effortlessly glided through the water, a symbol of his agility to navigate the currents of life with grace. In the water, he found solace. The rhythmic strokes were a dance of strength and tranquility, mirroring the way he approached life's trials. This dedication to the sport wasn't just about medals and competitions. It was a profound connection to nature and community, a spiritual communion with the very essence of existence. As we say our goodbyes to Charlie, let us not mourn the loss of him, but celebrate the incredible journey he has embarked upon. Just as the water continues to flow, so too does his spirit live on in the memories we shared, the lessons he imparted, and the love he generously gave. As our hearts ache for his loss, in his memory, please remember, just keep swimming. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Sariah, and thank you, Bethany. Those were beautiful, beautiful remarks. At this time, we have about 30 minutes to hear from your stories. We want to hear your stories of Charlie. So we invite all the family and friends who would like to come up and share their stories at this time to come up.
Hi, for those of you who don't know who I am Charlie's younger brother, and I have two of my favorite stories to share today. It was his first time in Texas with us, and we had just filled up my 2005 Mustang, and it was full of gas. We stopped at the bottom of the hill because he wanted to push it up a 30-degree incline hill, just to say he could push a Mustang. And one of the more recent times, back in November, we told my parents that we were going to Dairy Queen. We ended up getting tattoos. And we brought Gage along, and he sat there and watched us complain about how much they hurt because they felt like the dude was digging in our nipple. But nonetheless, Charlie didn't tap out because I didn't, because he didn't want to look like the weaker brother. Thank you.
Part of the reason I need to come up because I didn't have any tissues with me. The other reason for family and friends that don't know, I am who Charlie would call Coach Rachel. And I just want to say you're welcome for tiring him out. But he was the boy. I don't have his particular story. But I coached him first at the Silver Springs pool for a couple of summers, and then they wouldn't let us swim there anymore because the kids said the lights were zapping them in the water or something. And so he had to join the team at Whitney Ranch, and he stayed there until COVID 2020. The city wouldn't let us swim indoors for a while for that year. And when we started swimming at Multi-Gen and he moved on to the national group and eventually became the top swimmer on the team, I was still coaching the little 8 and 9-year-olds. And the moms would be like, I'm so worried about my boys. They have so much energy and they're uncoordinated. How do you do it? And I would say, do you see that kid over there? The top kid on the team, leading the team. He was like your boys once. There's hope for anybody if there's hope for Charlie. And I am just so honored to have had a front row seat to see him grow into the man that he became. And he will always live on. And I just had to stand up at a podium just like this 2 months ago for my father's funeral, who was also his coach. If you ever heard him talk about Coach Bob, that was my father. And I believe that Charlie is there with family that has passed on before, and then also swim friends. And I believe that Coach Bob greeted him. If any of you remember Coach Bob's greeting, I'll do my best. Howdy. But so if you are worried that Charlie feels like he's been out of the pool for a while, Coach Bob's there, don't worry. But he will be greatly missed, but he always remembered.
For those who don't know who I am Aiden. I was Charlie's youngest sister. And I have two memories I would like to share with you today. When I first met him and the last time I saw him. When I first met him, I was very surprised at how tall he was. And I was sitting on my uncle's couch and I saw him walk in and I went to shake his hand. I said, "Hi, I'm Aiden, your younger sister." And he immediately pulled me into a hug. And that is when I knew that he was going to be one of the best big brothers ever. And then my last memory of Charlie, we played Walmart bingo when he came to visit us for Thanksgiving. And we were told if we got in trouble, our last name was not Pilarowski. And we were walking around and we had Charlie get into a little tub. And just think, a 6'8" person getting into a 50-gallon tub. And then we were running around Walmart, and it was put on baby clothes, or like little kids' clothes. So Gavin and Charlie put on these little kids' robes and stuck their hands up in the air and high-fived each other. And I just laughed the whole time because seeing my brothers get along made my day every day. Thank you.
Hello. For those of you who don't know me, I am Charlie's cousin. There's been a 9-month age gap between us our entire lives, so growing up they called us the twins. It also didn't help that I used to cut my hair off really, really short, and he was a boy, so his hair was short, and we used to dress up in Snow White dresses together, and he had his little Spider-Man sneakers, and I had my princess sneakers, and there's somewhere a picture of that. Can't find it for the life of me. Tried. But that was just kind of how we were. There have been so many instances of, especially recently with all of the pictures pouring in from everywhere, of me seeing things that Charlie's done and me going through my phone and being like, I have the exact same picture of the exact same pose with the exact same person, just in a different time, because we just always were doing the same thing. We got into the most trouble together, just saying he learned how to fight from me. I beat him up enough, so he had to lose enough, and then he got there eventually. It took him being an entire foot taller than me for him to finally beat me in a fight. From getting in sparring matches when we were younger, getting in fights, roughhousing, we were best friends. We are best friends. And there's just so many great memories, like the time I broke my toilet, and Charlie, I was trying to lie about it, and my mom heard it from the other room, and she went, "What was that?" And I went, "Nothing," and Charlie went, "We broke the toilet." We were so young then, and we just spent all of our time together, and, we recently took different life paths, so we didn't get to see each other a lot, very frequently, but I remember very fondly of the last time I wore this uniform, which was my grandfather's wake, where me and Charlie were there for each other, and at the wake, we kind of went by ourselves into the TV room. We put on some Chris D'Elia stand-up comedy, and we just hung out and laughed and had fun, and definitely didn't drink, but we had so much fun, and we were just there for each other, and it was just us in that room. Like, people would filter in and out, see if we were okay, and we were just laughing. We were having so much fun. And then I think one of my favorite memories, recent memories, was when I came home from South Korea, and we came home for HBL, which was holiday block leave, and me and Charlie, that was after our grandfather's passing, and we all got tattoos for our grandfather, and he really wanted to get a tattoo. So I was like, okay, let's go get a tattoo. There's a lot of tattoo stories today. So we found this tattoo place. We went on Pinterest really quick. We found a sailboat tattoo that he really liked. I still have the exact picture and the timestamp of when we picked it out together. And I don't know if that was his first tattoo after hearing your story, but he pretended like it was, even if it wasn't, because he was sitting there and he was like, is this gonna hurt? He's like, I'm a little nervous. Is it gonna like rip into my skin? And then he started it, and I have a video of it. He started it, and Charlie went, oh, that's it? Oh, I can do this. And then he just sat there like a champ. And then, of course, we got out of it and just flexed in the mirror really quick. And we have a great picture of it. Yeah, and Charlie was just, he was everyone's best friend, honestly. Charlie was there for everybody. And I would beat myself up if I hadn't come up here today. I don't have anything specific to say, but I knew I would beat myself up over it if I hadn't come up at all, so. I'm so, so happy. I didn't actually see how many people are here, but there are so many people here. And it's so amazing that you guys are all here, especially for tacos. But, Charlie's here too, but it's mostly for tacos. But he was just an amazing person. And that's all I have to say, but yeah.
So my name is Laura. I can confidently say probably about 99% of you guys don't know me. Tommy is my wonderful best friend, and I have briefly met her parents, I think 1 or 2 times. Not much besides a hello or how you doing. But one of the brief memories I do have is Tommy always comes out to my art events. I'm an artist, and I've been trying to put myself out there, and her brother was in town. I wasn't worried about it, and yet her and Charlie and I think a group of their friends come walking up, and as everyone said, he just had such an air of confidence about himself. He was so kind. He came up and looked at everything that I had and complimented me on it and asked me about it, and even talked with my boyfriend briefly. And I just love to see how much joy he brought everyone. I know how loved he was by this whole family, especially Tommy. I've seen it for years and years, and I'm truly sorry for everyone's loss here, but it is amazing to see how many people are here, and he will forever be loved.
Hi, I'm Whitney, and for the past year or so, I had the honor and the privilege of loving and being loved by Charlie. And I coach public speaking at a public high school for a living, but even yet, I think we all know that there is no combination of words out there in the world to sum up the kind of person like Charlie. But I'm going to try by telling one story that has been coming to mind as I've been listening to people speak. It was a random Saturday night in the middle of October, and he told me he would be home by 8 that night. Well, 8 o'clock comes and I don't see him. 8:30 comes and goes, no knock on the door. It is 11 p.m. and I hear his signature knock. I open the door, he walks in. Without saying a single word to me or any of my roommates, he runs into my room and hops in the shower. Of course, I'm a little bit concerned, so I open the bathroom door. I ask him if he's okay, and he says, yeah, I just need to get the vomit off. Give me a couple minutes. And those of you who knew Charlie probably assume it was his own, but I later learned that it was not. He lived right by a middle school in Laramie, and he told me he had been out for a walk around the neighborhood, barefoot, obviously, and he ran across a group of girls on the swing set on the middle school playground, very intoxicated, and they told him that they didn't have a way to get home. So one by one, he picked them up and carried them and deposited them into the back seat of his car. He drove them back to the dorms, made sure that they all got back to their rooms safely, and then him and I got to spend the next day scrubbing vomit out of the back seat of his car with a toothbrush. Charlie cared about everybody he met, from his friends and family that he loved to random strangers on a middle school playground.
Hi there, I am Charlie's Aunt Molly, and I thought I would just share a couple things, as we all are doing. So Charlie was the first person in my whole family that met my husband. It was our first date. True story. True story. I was still living with my parents, and my husband, who I had met, just in a bar, as one does, a few weeks before, was coming for our first date, and I was like, this guy, talking to my mom and my sister, yeah, I really like him. He's real cute. I've got a good feeling. So the night of the date came, and I was glammed up, and the door opens, and it's my sister and all of her children at the house, and I'm like, oh, good, everybody's here. It's great. So I'm like, okay, guys, just back in the kitchen, go watch the TV, guys. That sounds good. Just stay there for a while. So my husband comes to the door, knocks at the door, and Charlie leaps up, books it. He's like, I got it. Okay. I'm like, Charlie, no. Swings open the front door. Hi, new friend. Just because I think we can all agree he gave up, real big golden retriever energy. Just loved you and wanted you to love him, and I backed him away. But that was my husband's first introduction to our family. And here's a fun fact I learned just a couple years ago. Charlie finally told me this. The first drink he had was at my wedding. So I found this out pretty recently. He was a junior groomsman at our wedding, and when all the boys were getting ready, he wanted to be with the boys. So he was in the suite with the 6 groomsmen, my husband getting ready. I wasn't supervising, I was getting married. And he was just there hanging out. And I later found a picture of him in a jacuzzi with a bottle of beer and my drunk groomsmen. I'm like, what's going on here? And Charlie's like, oh yeah, it's the first time I had a drink. I'm like, he was 11. I asked my terrible tale groomsmen years later, I'm like, what were you doing? They're like, well, he was taller than 3 of us. We assumed he was old enough. That is a true story. He was 11, he was taller than 3 of my groomsmen. And I thought he was old enough. So, that story checks out. But I think, as we all know, to know him was to love him. And he loved everybody he knew. So.
Hi, everybody. I was fortunate enough to know Charlie before he was even born. And he had a lot of energy back then, before he was even born. But my favorite thing about Charlie was how much he loved everybody. Sorry. He would say to me every single time he saw me, he would give me a great big hug, and he would say, Jen, I give the best hugs, right? And I would be like, yes, Charlie, you give the best hugs. And he would say, even better than Tommy? Yes, even better than Tommy. Am I your favorite? Charlie, you're always going to be my favorite. And he was a great kid, and he will certainly be missed. But it's great to see all these people out here who loved him. He was very loved, so thank you.
I'm Charlie's Aunt Andrea, and we just love him. I kept thinking about all the many times that he would go and gather one of my grandkids. As soon as there was somebody smaller than him in the family, he was so excited he would seek them out. He was always taking care of my little grandkids, wanted to hold them, wanted to love them. Besides giving me ginormous big hugs, he let me call him Chuck, the only person, and if he let you call him that too, don't tell me, because he told me I was the only one who was allowed to call him Chuck. He was just such a sweetheart. He made everyone feel special, everyone feel like they were his best friend. And family parties with him were my favorite. He always, somehow, in a white elephant exchange, always took the younger kids' gifts. But you know what? They weren't upset because it was Charlie that was taking their present. They'd ask, why is Charlie taking my stuff? But because it was Charlie, and he always accompanied it with a laugh and a hug, it was okay. Charlie was such a joy in our lives. We love him so much, and we're so thankful that we get to see him again. We love Dave and Anna and their family, and they've done such a wonderful job today. We're so proud of them, and we're so thankful for all the love and support they have received through their swim family and the community. We're just overwhelmed with how much you have loved and supported our family, and we thank you.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know, I am the son of one of Anna and David's close friends. I just have a quick story today. I remember it was like 5-6 years ago. Me and Anna and David and Charlie and Nate went up snowboarding in Bryan Head. And we were next to one of the really big jumps, like 10 feet tall, like huge. And I was probably about 12 years old at the time. I was very scared. So Charlie just goes, just do one of those jumps. Like, you can do it. Like, you got it. Like, fudge yeah. But, you know, in the more adult way of saying it. So me at 12 years old, I go, yeah, fudge yeah. And Charlie gave me the courage that I needed to do this really tall jump. And I ended up backflipping on top of my head and getting hurt. But that's not the point of the story. The point is that he gave me the courage that I needed, and he just, he was an amazing person. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm one of Charlie's uncles. I have a brief rebuttal on him never picking on smaller people. Just to set the record straight, I distinctly remember him throwing his younger brother, Nate, into my pool in December at a holiday party and grinning like a Cheshire cat. Absolutely. But aside from that, I will remember a lot of things about Charlie, and one of them is he was the basis for the best white elephant gift ever at a holiday party, which was quite literally a 10-foot tall poster of Charlie from some swimming, I think high school. Yeah. That got laughs like I have never seen a white elephant give laughs. The other thing I remember is I'm not much of a hugger, but he wore me down. And okay, yes, haven't we already hugged? But and I will forever miss that. And then finally, I want to know how the Dad, do we have a fire extinguisher? Story didn't make the top list. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Ted. I'm a friend of Charlie's family. I've been for a long time, many years. I've known Charlie's dad since we were in high school. And at some point, when we were in our early to mid-20s, Dave asked me if I'd like to come sometime check out his karate class, see if it's something I might be interested in. And I was, and we've been doing karate together for almost 30 years now. And after Dave and Anna moved into their house, Dave wanted to open his own little karate dojo in the garage in the house. And I went over there twice a week for years teaching karate with Dave. And we had a number of students over that time, but that class started with and always included Dave and Anna's children, including Charlie. And between that and being a close enough longtime friend that I was made welcome at several family functions over the years and gatherings, I got to watch Charlie grow up, and he was definitely very special. And all the things that I've heard said here today have been exactly right. That's who he was. I remember a lot of the stories that have been told, and the few stories that have been told here that I hadn't heard before, I sat here thinking, that sounds like Charlie. That was him. I have just one story. After one of those karate classes, when we were done for the day, Charlie asked me if I'd like to play basketball with him. Now, I've been thinking about this, and I can't pin it exactly, but I think it must have been when Charlie was about 8 years old, which means, believe it or not, I was still a little bit taller than Charlie. Not much. And I thought, this will be fun, play basketball with this kid. And we go out into the street in front of the house, and he had a little portable basketball hoop that he could set up out there, and we start playing. Charlie gets the ball, and he's going to shoot, and I thought, don't be a jerk. You're a grown-up. He's an 8-year-old kid. Play nice. To kind of have a step back, let him have the room to take the shot. And Charlie, of course, executes the perfect jump shot. The ball goes straight through with a beautiful, perfect swish through the net. And I thought, if I keep being nice, he's going to beat me. I'm not going to win this game. And I thought about it, in the second it takes to go through a whole thought process. I thought, it's not that big a deal, except this is Dave Clark's son. Dave loves to give me a hard time. If he knows that his 8-year-old kid beat me in basketball, I'm never going to hear the end of it. So I started playing to win. And I think I did. I believe I won by 1 basket. And I was exhausted and sore and wanted to go home and lie down. I had nothing left. It took everything I had to win a game of basketball against Charlie at 8 years old by 1 point. And as I think back, I have to wonder if maybe Charlie was going easy on me. Like I said, I remember those stories. I remember a lot of those things that happened when Charlie was growing up. I remember what a sweet kid he always was. He was always full of love. What I'm really going to remember is that smile. And if you look at these pictures on this program we all have today, one, he was really little, launching himself off the stairs, and I think I remember that. And this looks pretty recent. He's grown up. Smile's the same. That smile never changed. And every time I saw Charlie ever, I saw that smile. And every time I ever saw Charlie, yes, like a lot of people have been saying, I always got a hug. Even when he had to lean way down to do it, I always got a hug. And I'm going to miss Charlie a lot. I think we all are. But for those of us that knew him, I think we'll always be able to just close our eyes, take a second, and we'll see that smile.
I am Charlie's older cousin Alex, and whenever I think of Charlie, I imagine him as this little guy. So every time I saw him, I was still completely surprised by how tall he was somehow. I don't know how. But from the first day I met Charlie, he was always the biggest cuddle bug and the most cuddly person I'd ever met. Some of my favorite memories of him are just being at our family's cabin and lying on the couch trying to take a nap and having this lanky, bony mass crawl up onto me and decide to take a nap with me every day. And you couldn't even be mad about it because he was just so darn cute and so just loving and sweet that even though I kind of just wanted to sleep, I couldn't help but love just having him there with me. And I know that he's here with us today. And I'm so thankful that I've gotten so much time with him.
I'm also one of Charlie's uncles, and Charlie definitely was, he was pure his whole life, you know, just, he just could never be mad at the guy. I remember I used to take him to basketball games, we, you know, go to UNLV games, whatnot, and so probably about 10 years ago, we were at a game, and we were, you know, coming out of the game, and one of the things we always did is, you know, we'd always slide the rail down to like the bottom. You know, we'd love that. We'd race, whatnot. And probably at that point I was 40. So even though he was only 10, I figured that was probably, you know, my best chance to beat him at a race, right? A little heavier at that point still. So, you know, I had gravity on my side. And, you know, just as we're doing it, he's sliding behind me and he's like, yeah, Uncle Chris, you know, why are you going bald so young? I said, well, we all have our crosses to bear, Charlie, but how old do you think I am? And he goes, I don't know, you know, like, 25, 28. And, you know, if you're, and I was not married at the time, single, and so, like, if you're not, I think, kind of, as they perceive, you know, older people to be, you're just kind of younger, you know, regardless of what your age was. And I go, oh, how old do you think your mom is, Charlie? And he goes, well, that's not something we talk about. I go, okay, well, you know, I think your mom's a bit older than 25, so let's talk about this with her, you know? And, she'd love to hear that I'm 25. I guess that was my way of getting revenge. You can't get revenge at a 10-year-old, so you take it out on their parents. But just recently, you know, unfortunately, you know, my mom passed, and you know, so we were there, and you know, Charlie came up, and you know, I have a 4-year-old son now, and he was like, you know, I really loved how, you know, you used to take me to those games, Uncle Chris, and he goes, you know, I just, you know, can't wait to do, you know, the same with, you know, your son. And it's kind of funny. He's like Charlie too, you know, he's all gas, no brakes. So I've taken a lot of hope and inspiration from the stories from, you know, Charlie today. I'm definitely going to work on channeling energy, whatnot. But, you know, these were, you know, just random games that we used to go back to way in the day. And, you know, you know, his thought was that, hey, I'm going to pay that back. You know, I'm gonna bring that full circle. And like I said, you know, he always was that. He was always pure of intent, you know, heart and mind, and you know, just certainly you know, a great example for all of us, and you know, something to take away from it all.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I had the pleasure of being Charlie's co-captain at our high school swim team. The first time I ever met Charlie, I think I was 15 at the time, and I knew no one in high school. I saw him in passing occasionally, and I was sitting at the multi-gen, and all I hear is my name being called, and this giant, long-legged guy walking towards me and asking me if I was ready to go swim with him. Now, I'm not anywhere near as good as Charlie ever was. I swam for fun, just for the fun of it, and I thought about joining the swim team. That day, Charlie nearly drowned me multiple times. He was so hard to keep up with. No matter what you did or how long you tried to swim, he was always lapping you in the pool. Our senior year, I was captain, and he had already been captain for about 4 years at the time. And our school did a thing where we had to take pictures for all of the captains on that team, and you had your own 10-foot poster hanging in the gym for that whole year. And everyone that took pictures that day, we were all, you don't really know how to pose for a professional picture or whatever. And Charlie's posing, doing all these struts and stands, and he's just being who he is, and our friend John are sitting right next to him. And we're taking pictures of Charlie, and he's just feeling himself. And for the next year, every time I had to walk into the gym, I had to see a 10-foot picture of both of us for all of Silverado, to see. And that's a very humbling experience. But Charlie was my closest friend, I would say, and he brought so much light to my life and my family. But that was Charlie to me. And he took me to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I think our freshman year, and we were just making jokes the whole time, and I was like making jokes out of him being Charlie and us going to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and he would take me to Vegas Golden Knights games. And we went to get food the next night, and his car's not that big, and he is a 6'7" man, and he somehow managed to fold himself in a fetal position in the driver's side of his seat and just proceed to tell me the craziest stories I've ever heard about him being in college so far. But that's who Charlie was. He always had the best and the funny stories to tell.
Hello, everyone. My name's Destiny. I have known Charlie since kindergarten, and I was one of the very lucky people who got put in every single class of his since middle school. Oh, that was such fun. It truly was. We were always sat together, too, because I was the quiet one who always listened to the teacher, and he was not. So once high school finally hit, we didn't have any electives together, nothing. So I was like, oh my God, we finally have a break from each other. I can make more friends. Then he convinced me to join swim team. And I am not a good swimmer at all, nor can I dive, which he had to teach me how to not faceplant on the water. But I also needed to raise money to be part of that team, and he helped me sell the box of chocolates that most of you know, but he sold them for $1 more than what they were worth, so he would make a profit, and I could still join swim, and he did not share any of that profit with me, mind you. So with every box that I sold, he'd make a good $60, and that was a couple decent boxes, and he didn't tell me until after the fact. But my favorite memory of him was when I had just turned 18, and I had a really big secret that I was expecting a baby. And I told him on my birthday before I announced it to everyone that I was expecting. And he went, you know what's a great name? And I went, oh, really? What is it? And he went, Charles. And I was like, oh, really? You want me to name my child after you? He went, yeah. And I went, and what if it's a girl? I was like, it could work. So my daughter just turned 1 yesterday, and I know he's looking down on her and has a new guardian angel watching over her. And yeah.
I know I already had a turn, but I thought I'd end this portion of the program with the fire extinguisher story that my brother brought up. I was working at home one day after, in the afternoon after the kids were out of school on my laptop upstairs, and Charlie comes up. He's like, hey, Dad, you got a minute? I'm like, well, I'm working, but what do you need? He's like, well, if you're busy, it's okay. I'm like, no, I got time. What is it? He says, do we have a fire extinguisher in the kitchen? Very casually. I'm like, well, I think so. It should be under the cupboard, but I'm not sure. He's like, okay, if there's not a fire extinguisher, what would you use to put a fire out with? Like, Charlie, is there a fire in the kitchen? Not a big one, just a little one. And we'd been having this conversation upstairs in my room. So I ran downstairs, and there was, in fact, a fire. We'd put the Tupperware on the oven to dry out, because out of the dishwasher it's still a little damp. And Charlie had somehow turned on one of the burners, resulting in a little fire. So we sprinted down, and I taught him how to use baking soda to extinguish a kitchen fire, and so it was a learning experience for all of us. But that was Charlie.
Thank you very much to all of you who have shared those memories of Charlie. Very good. The end of our meeting will go as follows. Next, we will hear a speaker from his sister, Tommy Chapter Clark. Following Tommy, I will give a few closing remarks. After my closing remarks, we will have a closing song. It's called How Great Thou Art. It can be found in your hymn books on page 86. Following the closing song, we will have a closing prayer by David Douglas, a family friend. And following this celebration, the family has invited everyone to stay for some refreshments, some tacos and drinks outside. Tommy.
Hello, everybody. There are more of you than I expected when I practiced this, so if I'm a little shaky, I do run on the anxious side. To those of you who don't know me, my name is Tommy, and I am the last of Charlie's older sisters. Over the last 3 weeks, I have had the tragic privilege to hear beautiful, heartfelt, and pain-riddled stories of how my brother touched the lives of each and every person in this room and out. I've witnessed people who were complete strangers love this boy because even a brief interaction with him could show you the pure gold his soul was made from. Some of the things consistently brought up in the stories we read about Charlie was the light he brought to any room he was in, how comfortable he made people by talking or listening to all with open arms and an open heart. Although with a wingspan like Charlie's, it's kind of hard not to feel better with an open heart invite to a hug from him. Another thing brought up when Charlie is mentioned was that goofy smile of his. Charlie beamed his iconic toothy grin from ear to ear with, I think, the full force of every face muscle. Thus, the title of Cheeseball my mom and I bestowed upon him. If you're never fully dressed without a smile, this kid may have well been black tie formal to every occasion. Luckily, Charlie did us the favor of never hesitating to take his shirt off at every possible moment. And yes, he's already flexing, and yes, he's very proud of his lat spread. The next thing I'll bring up is his passion for the water, for his education, but most importantly, for the passion he had for the people in his life. The passion he had for his local swim team, who he would become a mentor and big brother figure to for so many kids. The passion for his college swim team, whose girlies he would never miss getting his nails painted by as long as they gave him the hot tea. And the passion of his boys, who he never turned down a Mario Kart tournament for and never failed to outdance an Eddie party. The passion and love he had for his beautiful girlfriend, who he intended to spend a long and dedicated life with. An old mentor of mine used to say, if you perform every day-to-day task like it is the most important thing in your life, you will never fail. Well, this helped inspire my young brain. It was a mantra that seemed to be ingrained in Charlie from birth. There was no task, event, or person in Charlie's life not worth pouring his whole heart into every day, which put me in a particularly advantageous position as his older and slightly mischievous sister. As we did hear earlier, the ascending knife story is a little different the way I tell it. From the age of about 6 or 7, there was nothing Charlie wouldn't do with the utmost level of importance than trying to prove to me that he was the next Spider-Man. That was, of course, as long as Mom and Dad were not around, and for the sake of my own plausible deniability. The gleam in this kid's eyes upon hearing the word, "Hey Charlie, you know what the real Spider-Man could do?" To then be followed by a completely arbitrary task, and in retrospect, a usually pretty terrible idea for him to be executing. And yet, there was no hesitation on Charlie's end in his course of actions to complete his quest of becoming the ultimate Spider-Man. Hey, Charlie. Yes? You know, Spider-Man probably wouldn't have any issues climbing the palm tree in the backyard. With the determination and focus of an FBI agent in a hostage extraction situation, he would map out his course of action. Lock in. Operation, climb the tree. Mission objective, climb all the way to the top. Tools equipped, 2 butter knives stowed in his basketball shorts that he would use like climbing hooks to get to the top. And this would indeed prove that he was Spider-Man. Don't worry, Mom. I tied the rubber garden hose around his waist first in case he fell, because what kind of big sister would I be if I didn't set up a completely useless safety measure that I completely believed would fully save me from any punishment that came my way were he to fall. Thankfully, Charlie had pieced together, after a couple of tries, that if he butter knifed his way all the way up to the top, he probably would not be able to butter knife his way back down very efficiently, and rather quickly aborted mission. If you glance at the front of your service pamphlets, you will see an iconic picture of Charlie leaping from our parents' stairs like a superhero. Spider-Man doesn't need a plan for this one, Tom Tom. It's easy. You just gotta jump. A cheeseball grin across his face as he leapt onto the love sack placed conveniently at the bottom of the stairs. As my mother so frequently mentioned, stranger danger was difficult to enforce with Charlie because in his world, strangers were just friends he hadn't made yet. This remained true his entire life, and I had the chance to witness Charlie's flawless friend-making technique this recent New Year's Eve. I had the honor, privilege, and I like to think right, as his older sister, of taking Charlie to his first bar to celebrate the New Year with his very real and not fake ID. Please. Let me set the scene. We're sitting on a patio table of a country bar on Water Street, December 31st, 2023, 11:45 p.m. As we're getting ready to ring in the new year, Charlie taps my shoulder, points to a couple across the way, and he goes, "Tommy, I'm gonna talk to them." I said, "Charlie, why? Please don't bother those nice people on New Year's Eve." But he was already up. "Nah, watch this." What Charlie had noticed that I hadn't seen on this gentleman dressed in a polo, jeans, cowboy hat, belt buckle, and boots was a small logo on the left breast of his shirt that was the Wyoming Cowpoke mascot. He struts up to this couple, cool as a cucumber, and asks them if they're from Wyoming. And of course, taken aback a bit, they said, "Yeah, we sure are." Charlie then does what he has always done best, which is strip off his shirt to reveal his University of Wyoming swim and dive team shirt he had under his hoodie. "Oh, cool. I actually swim for the team up there. My name is Charlie," and shook their hands. A minute or two of chatting later, the gentleman gets up and goes to the bar, and Charlie promptly takes a seat next to his wife and continues chatting with her until her husband returns with a round for all of us. He approaches me, still sitting at my table. He says, "Are you with this young man right here?" I said, "Yeah, that's my brother." He places a shot down in front of me on the table, and he says, "He's a great kid. Take care of him and see to it that he gets a cowboy hat, okay? Cheers." And that was that. The YO family truly is one family, Charlie's family. Go Pokes. Oh, family. Charlie loved his family, and we loved our Charlie. There's a cruel beauty to being born in a family with as many siblings as we were. With siblings, you have built-in best friends, life companions, neighbors across the hall to bug when you can't sleep or you've had a nightmare. You have Nerf war competitors, dance partners, and brunch buddies. You have someone who knows your parents, watches you grow up, knows your worst struggles and your biggest achievements, and loves you through all of it. You always have someone rooting for you in your corner, even when you don't know where your corner is or where your future lies. And they're so proud of you regardless. The beauty in siblings is growing to know a soul so differently and in a deeper appreciation than anyone else in your life and probably theirs. Charlie spent an entire summer when I was around 10 dragging himself and our youngest brother into my bed every single night to sleep, not out of fear of the dark or monsters under the bed, but because he didn't want to start or end a single day without his siblings next to him. The cruel reality you unfortunately come to know is in situations like these. You wake up one day and have to accept that you will live in a reality where one of your siblings will never attend the funeral of the others. And for a moment you want to envy that they never have to experience a loss like this. And on the other end of the cruel stick, you realize one of you will have no sibling left to lay them to rest when it is time. As an older sibling, I'm sorry, I lost my spot. As an older sibling, you don't think to worry about a situation where you write a eulogy for your little brother until you've been tasked to do the unthinkable. And all you can do is pray that the love you have had for your siblings in this lifetime carries them all peacefully into the next, whether you're there to see it or not. And as for the rest of this lifetime, I hope to see my cheese ball again very soon, visiting me in a dream or two, until I can see him in the next. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. That was beautiful. Well, family and friends, I've really enjoyed this meeting so far, getting to know Charlie a little better through your stories. He was so adventurous, wasn't he? So loving, so kind, made friends to everyone, went up to strangers, said hello to them, made them feel welcome. And I've definitely got that message today. So thank you for all your memories. I have a memory of Charlie. One day, I think it was in April, it was his birthday, and I just went over to the house, the family house, to visit Charlie, tell him happy birthday, and give him a candy bar. And just like I've heard today, he didn't have shoes on and he didn't have a shirt on. But this day, he was not flexing. I didn't see the flex. But Charlie had a big smile and he was happy to get that candy bar. So when I heard of Charlie's passing, my mind immediately went to that. When I encountered Charlie and gave him a candy bar. I do have two quotes here about memories, because memories, I feel, are very important. The first quote is, "Wherever a beautiful soul has been, there is a trail of beautiful memories." And that's by Ronald Reagan. He was a beautiful soul and he left many beautiful memories, and we can hold on to those. Another quote, "To live in hearts we leave behind is not to die." And that's by Thomas Campbell. So he can live on in our memories. I would just like to talk about the program here for a second. When I first got the program, I was kind of touched by it, to be honest with you. I looked at some of the pictures. This is the first one I saw, Charlie jumping off of a stairwell. And I thought, wow, is someone going to catch him? Or is he going into like a big beanbag or something, you know? I just didn't know, but it was just a great photo. And then it wasn't this picture at that time. It was a different picture, and I think it's on one of the big pictures out there. But, you know, Charlie's diving competitively into water to win, right? And so I kind of saw the connection. Here's young Charlie jumping off the stairs, and then grown-up Charlie jumping into the competitive water of swim where he loved. And I kind of saw that progression of Charlie, just, you know, from a young person to a grown man, kind of living his dream, what he wanted to live. And so I really appreciated those pictures. And you know what? This picture isn't so bad either. This is an awesome picture. Charlie had such a great smile, and it's big right there, because guess who's behind him? The people that loved him most, the people that he loved most. So I just love this program. And one other thing that I want to read is this poem here. The poem that's on there is very meaningful. So I'm going to read it. And if you want, you can follow along. It's on the back. It's titled "Death is Nothing at All," and it's by Henry Scott Holland. It says, "Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away to the next room. I am I, and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we still are. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the easy way which you always used to. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effect, without the trace of a shadow on it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same that it ever was. There is absolute unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere, very near, just around the corner, all is well. I really love the message of that poem, all is well. Many tears have been shed today, and since Charlie's passing. I think that tears are a good thing. I have 2 quotes about tears. The first quote, "There is a sacredness in tears. They are not the mark of weakness, but of power. They speak more eloquently than 10,000 tongues. They are the messengers of overwhelming grief, of deep contrition, and of unspeakable love." That's by Washington Irving. Our tears are sacred. Our tears for Charlie are messengers of his love for us and the love that we have for him. In the scriptures we read, "If ye have not charity, ye are nothing, for charity never faileth. Wherefore cleave unto charity, which is the greatest of all. For all things must fail, but charity is the pure love of Christ, and it endureth forever. And whoso is found possessed of it at that last day, it shall be well with him." It's very clear to me from everything I've heard today that Charlie has lovingly touched the lives of countless people. Charlie possessed abundant amounts of love and charity. When I first was told that I would be conducting this meeting, I was a little nervous. I've never done this before. My mind went to a scripture, and the scripture is found in John chapter 11. It's the story of some sisters who lost their brother. It's Mary and Martha lost their brother Lazarus, and they loved their brother, and they knew that Jesus Christ could help, so they petitioned Jesus, "Will you please help us? Our brother is sick." They told him that before he passed away. For some reason, Jesus did not act on it right away. He didn't go to see Mary and Martha for 4 days. And so Mary and Martha were a little bit distraught. And I'm just going to read a few verses from there. "Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee. Jesus saith unto her, Thy brother shall rise again. Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this?" So those were Jesus' words to those grieving sisters. A few verses later, Mary talks to Jesus, and she's crying, and Jesus wept with her. He felt that compassion, that love for the family that had lost someone that they loved. To end my remarks today, I just wanted to talk just a little bit about the Easter season that we are approaching. The Easter season is all about Christ, his atonement, and his resurrection. The world is focused on that right now, especially in the coming 3 weeks as we lead up to this. that's focused on Jesus Christ and his victory over death. I just have a few words to read from a man named Elder Joseph Worthland. He talks about this Easter season, the Friday to the Sunday when Jesus died and when he was resurrected, and these are his remarks. On that Friday, the Savior of mankind was humiliated and bruised, abused and reviled. It was a Friday filled with devastating, consuming sorrow that gnawed at the souls of those who loved and honored the Son of God. I think that of all the days since the beginning of this world's history, that Friday was the darkest. But the doom of that day did not endure. The despair did not linger because on Sunday, the resurrected Lord burst the bonds of death. He ascended from the grave and appeared gloriously triumphant as the Savior of all mankind. Each of us will have our own Fridays. Those days when the universe itself seems shattered and the shreds of our world lie littered about us in pieces. We all will experience those broken times when it seems we can never be put back together again. We will all have our Fridays. But I testify to you in the name of the one who conquered death, Sunday will come. In the darkness of our sorrow, Sunday will come. No matter our desperation, no matter our grief, Sunday will come. In this life or the next, Sunday will come. And he continues, it's my solemn testimony that death is not the end of existence. Because of the risen Christ, death is swallowed up in victory. Because of our beloved Redeemer, we can lift up our voices even in the midst of our darkest days and proclaim, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? Jesus Christ and his resurrection are the reason that we can have poems titled, Death is Nothing at All. I love this message of Christ, this victory over death. Death is nothing at all. Charlie is with us, and we can always be with him in our memories. And Jesus Christ is our Savior who overcame death, and we will see Charlie again. Let us, as friends and family of Charlie Clark, continue with faith in Christ, with hope, charity, and love, as we remember the great life that Charlie lived, and let him, his life, and his love inspire us to be better. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Our Father in heaven, we now pray together in unity and full of love, as Charlie has brought us all together at this moment, and has taught so many of us how to love and to be loved, and also have fun during those times. We have a chance to recollect and also remember thy love for us, and of our prayer, we pray that we can feel thy love for us and for others. And we do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
now I see it.
Oh God!
Victory!
You
gotta have this.
Start climbing. Start swimming.
Charlie, get a little butterfly.
Push ups. Ready?